I have to be honest with you. This is the second video I've shot today for Life and Music. Actually, it's probably, I don't know how many. I think I started this now 4 or 5 times, and almost completed it. Virtually completed one video altogether, and I had to do it over again. And the reason I'm doing it over again is because I am brutally honest about everything. And usually, the more frustrated I am with the situation, the more honest I become. And sometimes my honesty, reaches over into personal opinion that it's difficult to shake me from. Opinions that are formed over decades of watching what people do to each other. Ugly things. So I have to do this another way, and this is the way I'm going to try to do it for you now, is to just say this. Throughout my life, for some unknown reason, a lot of people look at me and go, well, it's because you're a musician. It's because of this and that and the other thing, right? It's the music. It's people, okay, fine, whatever. That's all good. Maybe that's a reason. But I personally don't consider that a reason, because I just don't. I keep attracting, all of my life I have attracted broken people. And not many, it's a small percentage. But when it's someone almost every year, or 2 or 3 times a year, or whatever the case may be, it's a lot. I've met millions of people, but there have been some doozies that came into my life, and I didn't know what to do for them. I just wanted to gently extricate myself from the situation, and the more I tried to do that, the more difficult it became. And so I've met these people range from just mildly mentally ill to full-blown psychopaths. There's no other way to describe it. I have dealt with psychopaths and sociopaths that are clearly shouldn't be walking the streets, and maybe it is about the music. Maybe it's because I'm out doing whatever I did in my career on some small scale, and people consider that to be fame and whatnot, and they come running around because of that. I don't buy that shit, because I'm not famous. I'm not any more famous than anybody else is doing what I do, but somehow it seems that I seem to attract more people like this than anybody that I know. Now, mind you, some of these people came into my life and I helped them and sent them away, and they were fine. Other times, they didn't go away. So, one of the sectors of mental illness I've had to deal with multiple times in my lifetime is pedophiles. And when I was 13 years old, when we moved to Bridgewater, first got there, I became embroiled with one. Me and another of my friends. He went after both of us and kept us in this loop of terror and shame for the better part of a year. And but it's just another example of a broken person that was attracted to me for whatever unknown reason, and I chalk it up to that. And it wasn't the first time, and it wasn't the last time that I encountered it. And so, but it was the only time that I ever got caught in that cycle. that victim cycle, which is a frightening place to be, where you're too scared and ashamed and whatever to tell anybody what's going on. I was helped out of the situation by a man in town who was a gay man. His name was John Larondo. And he worked at the music store there, at Ross Music Sales in town, and I spent a lot of time there and a lot of time with him. And so did everybody. He was a loved man. He loved kids. He taught all the kids play the guitar. He sang. He performed. He played the harp in a harness, a harmonica in the harness. And he was a wonderful, wonderful man. And he saw that something was wrong with me, and he asked me about what was going on with me and my buddy. And I knew I was caught. I was going to have to tell somebody what was going on. When he approached me with this, and he just looked at me and said, "Listen, you guys are too young to be going over there. And if he's doing something inappropriate, you need to tell someone and get the hell out of there, because it's not right and it needs to stop." And that's what got me out. For him to say that, to pick up on it, and to tell me that's what got me out. And I walked away not knowing what was going to happen, because you never know. When you break away from somebody like that, it's pretty frightening. You don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to lash out at you. And thank God nothing happened. And the only thing that I really disturbed me is that my buddy, I left him there. He was still going there, I think, after I left, and I don't know what happened to him. I never saw him again. That's a really disturbing. He was still there. I know he didn't fall off the earth or die or something. He was still in town, but I never saw him again. And to tell the truth, actually, I probably didn't want to see him again, because it was, I don't know. It's hard to say. I just hope he's all right. However that ended for him, I hope he was okay. Like, that's all I can do. And so, yeah, that's just one example. We meet a lot of bad characters out on the road. I remember being at a concert one night with Robert Jodry, and I played with Robert on stage and picked the guitar all night. It was, audience loved me, and there was a guy there playing, and he was also the MC, I think. And I was only, like I said, I was probably 13 or 14 years old. And this guy walked up to me, all smiles, and stuck his hand out. And he was a guitar player himself. Obviously, he was there playing, and he stuck his hand out. He was a big. I was a little kid. He stuck his hand out. When I shook his hand, he shook my hand, and he was smiling at me, but his eyes were not smiling. And he was asking me all these questions. So how old are you? And he was squeezing my hand harder and harder and harder as each of these, and I was trying to answer these questions. Where are you from? How old are you? Where did you? And he had this smile on his face that was just not right, and he was really hurting me. He was crushing my hand, and I didn't know what to do. I was so awkward and so messed up from everything that was going on. in my life that I had no idea how to get away from this guy. And he was crushing my hand. I could feel things about to break, like it was squeezing me that hard. And he was just looking at me and smiling and looking at me like, I was, I was, all that was in my head was, why is this guy trying to hurt me? And I eventually, I think somebody spoke to him, and he kind of snapped out of it and let go of me, and I snatched my hand back. And I went off the other direction. I found Robert and his wife, but that sort of thing, like what possesses somebody to do something like that to a 13-year-old kid, a 14-year-old kid? I mean, I was a big lad. I mean, I really shot up when I was about 16, but I was a skinny kid, but I wasn't short. I was tall. I comported myself as much more mature than I was. But this guy tried to break my fucking hand. And as the only thing I could take away from that. And so, that's just weird stuff, that why people like that, always seem to find me, I don't know. And on the other side of the coin, you have the great people that found me, like Bruce Oakes and that crew of musicians, and sadly, John Larondo, who saved me from that horrible situation I was in, was himself murdered just a few years later at a house party. He was stabbed to death. And it was somebody, the person that killed him was somebody that I went to school with every day. And so the story goes, I don't know all the details, but the story goes that this school chum of mine killed John because John was coming onto him at a party. And everybody knew John wasn't like that. John was a decent man. That wasn't his deal. And he never did things like that. So, like, it's just so many sad things and so many, things like that. Just weird that those things happen in your life, right? I'm not the only one that those things have happened to, obviously, but the bright side of it is, that he did me a really good turn. And my life was filled with those people. That's what kept me alive and kept me sane, was the good people, and there was just so many of them. There were so many of them. Bruce, I remember Bruce used to take me out to, as I was becoming more and more involved with bluegrass through Up Home Tonight, because I appeared on the show that, when I was 13, then again when I was 14, and a third time when I was 15 or 16 years old. That show launched me sort of into the public eye in the province, and so I started to get a lot of attention. The doors started to open, at the local bluegrass festivals like Ardoise and Black Rock, and there was a festival down in Bridgewater at the exhibition grounds that happened, and I was starting to hang out with people that were really quite influential in those circles, of that music, and there was a lot of bluegrass in the South Shore of this province, and there still is. And I remember Bruce used to take me out to Ross Ramey's house. I mentioned Ross earlier in the story. And we used to go out there for these wicked jams, and there was a lot of players around. There was, Allie, I wish I could remember Allie's last name, good Lord. And I can't, and I couldn't remember the last time I tried to recall it. But Allie was a great fiddler. I remember his last name. I can't remember it shit. But and Wayne Hiltz and Ross's son Ronnie was a tremendous dobro player. And there was a band of all girls from up the road. I think they were called Exit 13, the Sardi Girls. They were around, and so I used to go out to Ross's place and have these humongous jam sessions. And it was a really funny night there. That this is sort of how I accidentally became a banjo player. We were at a session there one night. Bruce took me down and having a massive session, and I ended up in the kitchen talking to people, and Ross came by with the banjo, said, I got to go take a leak, and he said, hold this. Ross was like just such a bigger than life character, just an amazing man. Hold this, and he hands me the banjo and the picks, and he leaves, and I'm standing there holding this beautiful Stelling banjo, the most beautiful instrument I'd ever seen at that point in my life. And I thought to myself, I bet you I could play this. Because I already had a chance to fool with my brother's banjo, probably 5-6 years before that. And at this time I was at the level of guitar playing that I had a greater understanding of the mechanics of the banjo just by virtue of what I knew about the guitar. And so I thought, what the hell? So I sling this banjo over my back, put on these picks, and the old synesthesia kicks in, and all of a sudden I'm playing Foggy Mountain Breakdown. Sound just like the record. And even I was a little bit shocked. I was like, whoa, I can actually do this. I know what it's supposed to sound like. And everybody in the party just kind of stopped. It was like, what's going on? Because they knew Ross wasn't even in the room. He went to the bathroom. And everybody started to gather around in the kitchen, and Ross comes out, and he looks at me, cuts his eyes at me, and walks over and says, you're not allowed to play that anymore. And he's just kidding, right? But he took the banjo off me, and later on that night he goes, hey, if you want to learn anything, you just let me know. I'll teach you whatever you want to know, And that was Ross, right? Like, that was a guy. I met so many people like that. For all the guys that told me to go piss up a rope, there was another 2 guys like Ross that never turned me away, was always there to teach me things, always made me laugh, just a wonderful human being and a great proponent of bluegrass music in that part of the world. Him and his wife, Ginny. They used to have their own bus that Ross refurbished himself. It was an old gray bus. It was a Bluebird, and they took that around to all the festivals, and that was always a place where we all gathered, when we were together at these festivals, and so that was amazing. That's sort of how that happened. Because after that happened, I ended up borrowing a banjo from a buddy of mine, and started playing earnestly, trying to play the banjo more. And ironically, the very first band, actual band that I joined that was playing, clubs, was a bluegrass band, and I entered into that group as a banjo player. It's weird how it all ties together. And Foggy Mountain Breakdown, man, that's the granddaddy of all tunes, I guess. But probably a little easier to play than most people believe, I think. When I teach my banjo students, that one eludes them for a while until they realize, oh, this is a little easier than I thought. Scruggs was pretty brilliant. And, of course, it's written by Earl. I think how I'd like to close this episode is to just tell people a few things. Some of this is cliche, but it's still true. You never know by looking at somebody or even talking to them what they've been through or what they're going through at the time. And you should always be a little more lenient with people than you are. That's just a fact. We're all guilty of that. And the other thing I'd like to say is that if you've gone through trauma, in your life, it's always good to talk to somebody about it. It's not good to hold things inside, horribly ugly things, and let them ruin your life, because the past is in the past. There's no going back and changing it, and there's no reliving it, which means you can't go through the past again, only in your head. And if we all kind of concentrate on what's right in front of us, instead of looking behind us to the bad things, we'll enjoy our lives a lot more. And I know that's hard to do, because I've lived with the bad things in front of me for many, many years. I tried not to let them affect me that much, but they do, and they have. But I feel like I did a pretty good job of getting past it all. And I didn't come out unscathed, and there's parts of my story that still affect the way I am and the way I deal with people. But on the whole, I love people. And I've proven that many times, because one thing I took to heart of all the things my mother ever said to me was, you got to turn the other cheek. And that's what it boils down to. If something doesn't kill you, well, move on. That's the main thing. And cherish the things in front of you that are awesome, and the people that are in front of you that are awesome. That's where it is. The past and the people who did you in, that's over with. There's no lasting effect from that unless you let it be that way. And I know it's hard, I know it's tough, and I deal with all kinds of people, in my work with PTSD and these issues and stuff, and it's hard. I know it's hard, but I believe you can do it, and I have faith that we can all do what we need to live a better life, and live a life that's not filled with bad memories all the time. And thank God for music. Music is what always kept me going, and I know it keeps a lot of other people going. And yeah, so let's stay on the bright side. Keep on the sunny side, as Mother Maybelle said. A.P. Carter. Keep on the sunny side. And never hurts to listen to Earl Scruggs either. I'd just like to mention quickly off the top of this that when I measured the speed, the metronome of what Flatt and Scruggs recorded this tune at, I found that they did it at 160 beats per minute. So, here goes nothing. See you next time.